Hi, welcome. Glad you could join us today. Today, I am having a conversation with an angel mom friend of mine, Beth Bock. Say hi, Beth.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
And today, what I'd like to talk about is angel mom relationships and friendships that are formed. And Beth and I have been friends now for a couple years, and we're going to share a little bit about it. But first, let's get to know Beth. So, Beth, why don't you tell us your angel's name?
His name is Zach.
Tell me a little bit about Zach. What about Zach brings you joy that you remember?
Zach always lit up a room. He was just full of life and always had a smile on his face. I remember his smile so much. He was hilarious with a crazy imagination. Loved to make people laugh. He was kind, generous. He was always concerned about how everybody else was feeling. Just a very, very loving man. Just a wonderful guy.
And I have to say, from knowing you and even what we post on Facebook, I feel like I know him.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I know him. I know his personality. He doesn't feel like a stranger to me.
Yeah, I think our boys, that's kind of how I feel about Ryan. I know Ryan. And I think the what I think really connected us too at some point was when you sent me a card and you had Ryan's little biography in there. And it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, Ryan and Zach probably would have been really good friends because they had so much in common. And that really just warmed my heart. And I still have all the cards you sent me, as a matter of fact, but just that little bio really made a connection.
And I do think that they really had a lot in common, you know, as far as hobbies and skateboarding and music and just humor.
Yeah.
They had a lot.
And they loved food and they loved cooking.
That's right. Nailed it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So you want to show a picture of Zach?
Sure.
Let's see who we're talking about here.
This is my Zach.
Here he is.
My handsome man. Yes.
Definitely.
Love his smile. Yes.
So, I mean, what brings us here is our common ground for loss. So did Zach suffer from substance use disorder? How long was it? Do you want to just like briefly share that?
It's hard for me to pinpoint just exactly when. That's I think back and that's what happens when you're a grief, you're a mom and you're in grief is you're thinking back and you're thinking back. But I honestly feel like his substance use disorder started probably more around the age of 17. Now I know that he smoked weed prior to that, but I think it became a real problem around the age of 17 is when I started to really notice that there was just something different about him. He wasn't just a normal teenager doing the normal things. And so he struggled with it probably for 8 years, off and on. I know that was not something that he wanted to be doing, but it just got a hold of him. So he started by taking, I think, Xanax. And then I think around the age of 17 is when he got his wisdom teeth out and they prescribed him then some pain pills. So that probably just, escalated it. And so that's kind of where I think it started to be a problem and not just, just your normal teenage partying and things like that.
And that's so common because we hear that again and again and again.
Yeah.
And the sad part is when it comes to doctors prescribing opioids to minors, they still do it.
It's still going on today. You're right.
Yeah, it's still going on. And it's a tragedy. It really is a tragedy. Because I know when both my sons played ice hockey, So when they had injuries, they were prescribed hydrocodone and oxy repeatedly. And I never thought anything of it because what do? You trust the doctor.
Right. You put, you figure they know best. You're not the medical professional, and that's who you turn to. I didn't think about, him taking the pain pills for his wisdom teeth. Now
Right.
I think that, and I'm like, when I had mine out, I got nothing, and we just lived through that pain with, normal aspirin or Tylenol and things.
So
And then
how
he had,
did, go ahead, I'm sorry.
and then he had a sinus surgery then a little bit later. And I know it
Wow.
was painful. And so he was on pain medicine. But now I look back and I'm just like, I just wish I would have known the effects of what this would do to him, later on down the road. Yes.
It's true. We do. There's so much hindsight when you lose a child like we did. So
Yes.
much hindsight. But hopefully in our journeys now, we can advocate and educate others so they're not in our shoes. So how old was Zach when he passed?
Zach was 26. He had just turned 26 in January of
Okay.
2019. And then he became an angel March 25th of 2019.
And do you know what he passed from? How he passed?
He passed. He overdosed on heroin.
Okay.
He'd been in self-recovery for about a year and a half and was doing really good. And I've told you many times, I saw the Zach I always knew. And it was, I have to look back and I think about how blessed I am that I had that time with him when he was not using, because you know how they change. How not they, but the drugs make them a different person. And I don't know, I know he had a lot of anxiety, and he reached out. And I think a lot of it was the fact that he had not been taking any kind of drugs for a while. And I think he just thought, I just need to relax. And his plan was to get heroin. And so I think just because he had not been doing it, that was not his normal drug of choice anyway. It was pills, the oxys and the Xanax. Yeah.
And again, I am so sorry. I'm really sorry that this is how we know each other, but
Right.
we'll through the tragedy has given us the connection and the friendship that we have,
Yeah.
So in
Our
a
boys brought
way,
us
our
together.
boys brought us together.
Yes.
So how long have you been on your grief journey now?
39 months.
39 months.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I know you're counting the days, the weeks, the months.
Yes.
And then when it turns into a year, it's a tragedy. It really is a tragedy.
Yeah.
We go from counting their days, months, and years of life.
Yeah.
And then we're given this blow, and it turns into the days, weeks, months, and years that they've been gone.
Right. And it's just the strange thing too is that it feels like yesterday, but then it feels like a lifetime. I can't describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand, and I know many others understand the same thing. So how has, in your 39 months, how do you believe, or can you share, how has grief affected you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? I'm sure it's different from when you were in the beginning to
Yes.
now 39 months later. So in the span of 39 months, what have you seen different about yourself?
Well, I have to say my grief changes constantly. Obviously, I think all of us sister mamas know, like that first year and so we're just in such a fog.
Yes.
And the body aches. I just, my whole body ached. I slept constantly. I was full of anxiety. I actually don't even really have recollection of the first year. And then, as a matter of fact, I think you had to point out to me that we were in our third year. I still thought we were in our second year. I mean, it's just, and
Yeah.
so it's taken its toll on me physically, in that respect. And now, that's changed. I don't have the body aches. But I still get mentally exhausted. And so because I used to nap every day. And now I can manage, I can get through things, but my mind is always consumed with Zach, and he's always in my heart. No matter what I'm doing, he's always there. I just, I remember that day, when I found him vividly. And after that, everything is a blur. Like, my memory of the last 3 years is just really vague. I just don't recall a lot of things that have happened in the last 3 years. And I don't know if that's going to change for me or not. But it's just really hard. Emotionally, I struggle, with a lot of guilt. And even today, it was really bad at first. Like, what did I do wrong? What should I have done? How could I have helped him? Different things pop into your mind at different times about, a scenario that him and I went through. And I'm like, maybe I should have handled that differently. Or, and then I have to remind myself, well, I did this though. And then I did, so it's a constant battle with myself of just constantly, trying to get through it. I think the guilt of it all is just what's overwhelming. And then a lot of anger, not towards him, but towards people that are in my life that I reached out for help and I didn't get any. And I have a lot of anger about that. So, and depression, and a lot of anxiety. And I still struggle with a lot of anxiety. Certain things are really hard for me. And of course, we can all sit and talk about that first year and all the firsts, first birthday, first holidays, the Christmases, and that still really gets me down. And I think that's going to be a forever thing for me. I've just come to accept that.
And Tanner.
Hi, Tanner. Oh,
okay.
Oh, that's fun.
Hey, that was Tanner. But going back to what you were saying, you describe how often I describe, and so many angel moms, we describe it.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. It's really hard putting it into words. And when I see new moms come along, it's hard because you know what they're going through. You know what they're going through. You know the struggle. The memory thing, it's amazing what you remember. And then it's amazing what you don't remember. So I get frustrated because I can't remember things. And then I think, well, I remember that I can't remember. So shouldn't I?
Yeah.
But it's how it is. And what I think, going back to our friendship, is when you have good friends, they remember for you. They help you and they remember for you. So let's move on, and we'll talk about how long we've known each other and how we met. So for me, it's kind of a blur.
Right.
Because it was at a different point going back in my grief journey.
Yeah.
I remember we met through our friends group, Prisms of Drug Overdose. And I think when we started doing Zoom.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I think that's it too. Because I was thinking about that last night, and I'm like, I don't even have a clue as how we got connected. And I had to go
Yeah.
back and think. And I think we tried to have Zoom meetings as a whole group, and it just seemed like not a lot of moms they would come and go and stuff. But it was me and you and Susan that
Right.
we always started meeting, and that became our connection.
Yeah, okay, because that's what I remember too. We three were the constant.
Yes.
So then it was like, you know what? The three of us went on our own, and it was, well, let's talk. And we got to know each other. And there was a period of time where we were talking once or twice a week, through Messenger, videoing.
Yeah. Videoing. Yes.
And I think we've seen each other at our best, and we've seen each other at our worst.
Oh, most definitely. And
Yeah.
I have to say, I started going to therapy to deal with grief. But I think all in all, I mean, she's helped me tremendously. And I would, I'd always recommend it to anybody that's going through this. But also, I think our friendship has been the most positive in such a horrible situation, if that makes sense. Like
It
being
does.
able to get
Mhm.
on and talk with you and Susan, and you're the only people that I can sit and talk honestly about how I'm feeling, and you understand. You're the only people that I can just let it all out, and you're always there for me. So I know that, even though we live in different states, that if I'm having a bad day, I can reach out. And, I can't say that about everybody, and I'm not comfortable talking to just everybody about it because they don't understand.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. We go in guarded, because one thing I didn't know is that when Ryan passed, and I said, it was fentanyl poisoning and overdose, that I faced the stigma as the mom.
Right.
I had no idea that was going to happen. So
Yeah.
our friendship and getting to know each other really helps with that, because when you form a bond or even talk to another angel mom, there's a barrier that doesn't exist, because you're
Exactly.
both there due to the tragedy of child loss.
Yep.
So there's no that uncomfortable sometimes you get with others, non-grievers, that you don't face that. And we are able to talk about specifics of our kids' drug use. But what I love is we have learned so much about our kids.
Uh-huh.
It's like, I can't believe I didn't know Zach. But if I ran into him, that I'm going to be like, hey, Zach, I know your mom, kind of thing.
Right. Like you've known him for years. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how I feel. And through our talking too, it's like when we're having bad days, meltdowns, or just when a grief wave hits, I tend to retreat. It's like, I tend to retreat, but I'm comfortable and I trust you enough where I can say that.
Right. Exactly.
I don't have to put on the phony thing and be like, oh yeah, I just don't want to talk right now. It's just like, hey, I'm in a wave and I just can't be present right now. And you and Susan know that.
Right. And we know that. And especially when angel anniversaries come around and birthdays, it's usually the weeks before. It's the hardest. I know for me, it's the buildup of it. And I know typically not to reach out. I mean, I want to make sure that you guys know I'm there for you, but I know what you're going through. And so a lot of times I just need to be in my own thoughts, that I can't talk about things right now. Yes. And so we get that, and we don't have the pressure of somebody saying, well, come on, let's go do this and this, trying to help us, but they're not really
or get over it, or this will pass, or we know what to say, when to say it, and it's never, we never say anything to hurt another's feelings.
Yes.
And I
No.
think once we establish the level of trust with each other, the honesty naturally happened and everything naturally and organically fell into place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
But we were all
we have this connection.
strangers. We were all strangers at one point, and now it's still funny that, like, wrapping my head around that we live in different states.
Right?
Because as Susan always says, she always says, "Oh, I wish we could have coffee together." Well,
I know.
we have it on the screen, you know, we're
Right. We have it on the screen. I actually showered for you today too, because usually
Oh.
I'm in my pajamas and my hair's
yes,
all.
yes, yes. See?
So,
And I
yeah.
know, I stepped it up too today just for you.
Oh goodness. Yeah. I scare you in the mornings with my, when we're video chatting. But yeah, it's so interesting. And you know what's so funny too is I feel like you guys are family. I mean, I consider you guys family. I know about your family. I know
Mhm.
about family. My kids talk about you like they know you. And, so, my granddaughter, today I was like, oh, I'm going to have a little Zoom meeting with Mary Beth. And she went, oh, you guys are going to visit. I mean, she knows you
Yeah.
guys like your family. Yeah. We have just formed this bond that will never end. And you and I have actually never met in person. That's what's so funny too.
It's I believe we have, but I know
Right.
we didn't. So in my
Right.
head, oh yeah, we did. And it's
Yeah.
been your granddaughter, Kinley,
Yeah.
is Zach's daughter. So
Right.
getting to know her through you has been an amazing experience, and then what you battle and tackle as a grandmother,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother dynamic that hopefully we can do another conversation sometime talking about that.
Yeah.
Ryan didn't leave behind any kids, and I'm not a grandmother, so I don't know that, but I know I love seeing you as a grandmother. So now
Yeah.
2 granddaughters, but I'm sure the struggle's there because your son isn't here for his own daughter.
It's constant. That's a constant in my mind. You're right. You're exactly right. Yes.
So we'll do another conversation about that
I
sometime.
think that's a great idea. I have to say that Kinley, because, after we lost Zach, Zach watched Kinley during the day. And then while Hannah worked,
Mhm.
Kinley's mom, and then Zach worked in the evenings. So I immediately wanted to take over that role of Zach because I did not want Kinley's world to be rocked so much. She already had this trauma, and she was 3.5
Right.
when it happened. She was my lifesaver. She was my motivation to get up in the morning. Zach pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. Otherwise, I'm not sure where I would be. So she's just my little treasure. I just had to throw that in there as part of my grief, because I don't know where I'd be today if I didn't have her. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know a lot of other moms in the same situation as you feel the same way.
Yes.
To have that. When it comes to like my motivation, I felt from the beginning that it's now my responsibility to teach the world about Ryan. And if I go, there's nobody left to do it. Who's going to do it? So that's kind of my wake up in the morning, like, okay, what can I do for Ryan today? And I've had moments where I wonder, are people sick of hearing about it? And then in the next moment, I say to myself, well, that's their problem.
Right? They don't have to listen.
If you're uncomfortable for this moment, just think how uncomfortable I am for the rest of my life. Yeah. So that's why when I talk about grief, if somebody gets uncomfortable, well, you may be uncomfortable for the moment.
Right.
But that's your responsibility. My responsibility is to educate you and tell you about grief and what I'm feeling. I'm not going to be quiet about it. you know,
No.
but I will be respectful most times, most times. And, you know, I want to throw in there too. What I love when we talk is we don't have tear jerker sessions. We have learned to laugh.
I think, yeah, that's, I think that's what I love is that we three can come together, and maybe we're having a day when one of us is kind of feeling low or whatever. But what I do know is our chats that we have laughed so hard over the funniest thing. And I get off and I feel so much better.
I do.
Yes, it just does a lot for me.
Tanner. He's little Ryan. He's little Ryan. All right. So as we wrap up, do you have any advice for a grieving parent that you'd like to share?
I think taking your grief day by day is all you can do. I always describe myself as the person before I lost Zach and the person after. I mean, and I think that's how a lot of moms feel. I have changed, and I know I've changed, but you have to grieve what's best for you. And you can't let people tell you how to grieve. You're going to have days of just when you're just completely wiped out. And then you're going to have other days, and it gets a little bit lighter as the years go on. It's a different kind of grief. So the first years, with all the moms that are adding in our groups that have just lost their child, I honestly, sometimes my heart hurts for them, and I don't really have words to express. I know what they're going through, and I can't express it to them, but you just have to take it day by day. Take it day by day and do what you've got to do, to get through that day. And that's about, I just can't, like I can't tell you how to grieve. I can't, I can't be there for you.
Normal. It's normal. I think when I see, like you're saying, like new moms, and we see that heavy new grief, and it's so hard to say anything, because when you think back to yourself, certain things at the time made me mad or I didn't understand. And I remember one of the things I was told was be gentle to yourself. And in the beginning, I heard that and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't get it. So I am at 3.5 years. It's taken me time to realize how true that is. And for me, a lot of times it's like reminding myself, be gentle to myself. And sometimes I say, be gentle with myself. Because when I say to yourself, it's a little harsh. But when you say be gentle with yourself, it's kind. It's a kind thing. So.
Because I know that I have changed dramatically. And the things that were important to me back then are not. And I try to take time for myself just so I can have my quiet times that I need. It's, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but I don't have problems saying no to people anymore. I can't make plans with it, really solid plans. I mean, I can, but don't expect me to show, because that's up till the last minute whether or not I can or not. So, but you just have to take your grief one day at a time, because
it's normal. It's normal. Yes. And that's what grievers and non-grievers need to understand, is that's normal.
Yes.
Very, very normal. So I wanted to end with a positive thought, and actually what you were just saying, I thought was a great way to end it with our positive thought, is taking it day by day.
Yes. Day by day. And reach out. Don't try to go through this on your own. It's just not going to happen. Like I started therapy, but like I said, getting to know you guys, and now you're my sister mamas. And that right there is the best medicine of getting through my grief. is having a relationship with somebody like you and Susan and many others, not just you guys, but many others. We just have a connection. And that's
You do.
what you have to do. You can't
Yeah.
suffer alone. Just don't suffer alone. Reach out.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, I'd like to thank you, Beth, for having a conversation with me today.
Well, I'm glad you asked me.
Yes,
I
and
think this is
if you have any questions for Beth or I, just post a comment and we'll get back to you. So thank you again, Beth, my friend.
I love you, Mary Beth.
I love you more. So this, a reminder, it's about the From Project, Forever Ryan's Mom. You
That's
can
right.
find it on Facebook. It is a public page, or you can always send me an email at thefromproject@gmail.com. And a reminder to grieving parents, you are not alone.
That's right.
You are not alone. You know, if you want to reach out to Beth or I, or somebody else is on your mind that you've connected with on Facebook, reach out, send a little message.
Yes.
You never know the relationship that can come from that. So from my heart, from my heart to yours, I'm sending you love, hugs, support, and compassion. So
Yes.
be kind to yourself, and we'll see you at the next conversation. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Mary Beth. I love you.
Love you. Mwah.